The most listened to liberal talker in America is back. Here's Ed Schultz.
Blockbuster of a snowstorm in the Midwest. If you're driving in that stuff, you're asking yourself the question, are we having fun yet? 1-877-934-6833. I see that News Corp has just announced that there's going to be a new Fox Sports cable channel set to launch in August. What does that mean? If they don't like the score, they're going to change the score. If they don't like the outcome? Fox Sports cable channel on the way in August. 1-877-934-6833. The deadlock in Washington. Most of you hate it. You can't understand why. This is at 53% say they expect the sequester to personally affect them by cuts down to sequestration, while 39% say they are not going to be affected. Jim McDermott, Congressman, Washington, here on the Ed Schultz Radio Show, member of the House Budget Committee. Congressman, good to have you with us.
Good to be here, Ed.
Let's talk this Medicare plan that Ryan has come up with on the House Budget Committee. Take us down this road. I thought we had an election and people rejected that, and he's coming right back with the same stuff.
Well, you know, Ed, one thing you have to give Ryan is he's stubborn. He may not be smart, but he's stubborn. He keeps coming back with the same thing that people have thrown down in the wastebasket again and again and again. And he thinks it's a sign of insanity, really, to do the same thing over and over again and think that somehow you're going to get a different result. The people are going to react to this. In fact, he's making this one worse than the one before, because now you're only protected up to age 56. You were before 55. So he's inching forward to affect everybody in the seniors. And I don't understand how he can look himself in the eye and say he's going to put all these seniors at risk in the private insurance industry. It's just, it's unbelievable to me.
Will they get it to a point where they'll vote on it in the House?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, they'll bring it, they'll ram it through the Budget Committee, and they got the votes, and they'll put out whatever they want, and it'll die over in the Senate. See, Ed, really the problem is that the President and the Senate came up with a balanced approach on this sequestration, and the only reason it didn't pass is because Mitch McConnell used the filibuster. He violated the majority rule. If he put it on the floor, it would have passed. If it had come to the House and Boehner put it on the floor with 200 Democrats and a half a dozen smart Republicans, we would have passed an answer to the sequestration. I mean, it is simply that the majority does not rule in the U.S. Senate. And whatever happens with this bill that comes out of the House, it'll die quietly over in the Senate.
Yeah, but it will make a statement that they're not backing off. And this is their philosophy, and they are tied to it in a big, big way, and they're not going to move off this no matter what the election results were.
There's no question. They have refused to accept what happened. You know, when Obama ran the first time, we didn't really know who he was. We had 4 years to work with him, and the American people watched that and listened to all the attacks on Obamacare and climate change and all this stuff. And the people said, yeah, that's right, we like that. We want more of that. And so they elected him overwhelmingly. But the Republicans just refused, they refused to look at what's obvious to anybody who would spend the time to look at what happened in the election.
What do you make of these Republican governors that have done a reversal on Medicaid?
Well, they're looking at what's going to happen to them. If they turn down all that money, their hospitals are going to be mad at them because people will continue to come into the hospital when they're sick. They'll go in the emergency room. They'll get put in hospital beds. They'll wind up in all kinds of problems, and it will all be uncompensated care. And what the President in the Affordable Care Act did was give them Medicaid to cover people like that and do it all with federal money. So some of these governors wanted to make their political points as long as they could, but the realities of life bit them in the behind, and they are now taking it. I mean, even guys like this guy from Florida who, runs around saying all this stuff, there he is with his hand out like all the rest.
Jim McDermott with us here on the Ed Schultz Radio Show, Congressman from Washington, member of the House Budget Committee. Congressman, where are we going to go with this sequester? I mean, my take on all this is they're just going to run out the clock to the midterm. There's not going to be any deal on this. Republicans are going to look at the market. The market's doing well. That's really all they care about. Their donors protecting, and they're the wealthiest Americans. They're not going to give up any more revenue. So where does that leave us? That really, I think, leaves the left in a position, the liberals, to make sure that the president doesn't get weak-kneed and cut a deal that's going to hurt the big three. So I think we're going to be stalled here for a long time. Your thoughts?
I don't expect any legislation of any importance to pass in this session. I think we're going to get 2 more years of what we had under Mitch McConnell in the last 2 years. And you're absolutely right. The president cannot weaken on Medicare and Social Security and Medicaid. If he backs down and signs something, he really is, his place in history will be settled, and it won't be a pleasant one, because he is the only thing we have left to stop them. We can yell and scream in the House all we want, and the Senate can do everything they can, but Harry Reid can't get there as long as they don't let the majority rule. So the president is really the backstop, and he has got to stop this stuff, and I expect he will, actually.
And you don't expect any kind of deal on the sequester, that these cuts are going to hang in there and nothing's going to be done? And I think the Republican strategy is that they're just going to hope that these polls are going to turn to their favor and paint President Obama as a campaigner and someone that can't get something done.
Yeah, that's basically my analysis. The awful thing, I know medical research. One of the problems with this sequester is that you are stopping long-term investments, and you're not filling the pipeline. The president says we're going to innovate our way into the future, and we're going to innovate ourselves out ahead of the rest of the world. We will not innovate if we do not put money into research, whether it's in the National Science Foundation or the National Institutes of Health or NASA or NOAA. I mean, there's all these areas where we simply have stopped investing. It's awful for the future.
Yeah, it really is. Congressman, good to have you with us. Always a pleasure. Appreciate your time.
Talk to you again.
You bet. Jim McDermott, Washington, here on the Ed Schultz Radio Show. Your call's coming up.